Good evening, everyone. My name is Thomas J. Daniels. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Zoning Board, South Kingstown, and I'll be presiding this evening in the absence of our chairman. Members present tonight, from my left, Kevin Diamond, William Rosen, Susan Walsh, and Arlene Hicks. And all 5 members will be voting members this evening. Also present, except for the recusal. We'll get to that. Also present this evening is Amy Goins, South Kingstown Special Legal Counsel, Jamie Gorman, South Kingstown Building Official, and Jessica Spence, our Administrative Support Associate. The board is made up of 8 people, 5 regular voting members and 3 alternate members, of which we have currently 2 vacancies. A minimum of 4 members are required to be present to vote. In the event that fewer than 4 members are present, an alternate will step in. In this case, Ms. Hicks is an alternate, but she's serving as a voting member this evening. No more than 5 members are entitled to vote. Applicants are here either for a variance, dimensional or use, or to seek a special use permit, and tonight we have only dimensional variances. The board is a quasi-judicial body created by the South Kingstown Ordinance pursuant to state statute. We don't follow strict rules of evidence, and we operate in what we believe to be a fair and equitable manner. We try to let everyone speak unless they get carried away or it is determined not to be relevant. So in the interest of time, please try to be on the point and be brief. We do our best not to argue and keep things civil, and we try to have our last petition heard started by 10 p.m. When your petition is called, please come forward, clearly state your name and spell it for the record. Speak clearly so that everyone can hear you, and use the microphone, please. You will then be asked to take an oath to tell the truth, and you can present your petition along with other witnesses to testify in support of your petition. The board will then ask you or your witnesses questions. After the petitioner has presented their testimony, anyone else with questions about the application or wanting to support or oppose the petition will then be asked to step forward. They will identify themselves, be sworn in, and present their testimony, which may be followed again by questions from the board members. Please do not direct questions to the petitioner or other witnesses. The board will allow the petitioner to answer questions raised by the audience and/or respond to comments after the comment period. After hearing all testimony and before a vote is taken, board members will be asked to openly discuss the evidence as presented. Variances or special use permits require at least 3 voting members to vote in favor of the petition for the granting of the requested relief. Board members will ask a lot of questions for good reason. We can't grant anything we choose. There are rules to follow under the Town of South Kingstown's ordinance. You must give testimony to support certain facts, have dimensional variances only. For a variance, you must offer evidence to the board setting forth the following. The hardship is due to a unique characteristic of the subject land or the structure and is not due to the general characteristics of the surrounding area. The hardship is not the result of any prior action on your part, and that the granting of the variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. The relief requested is the least relief necessary. You must also show that the hardship that will be suffered if the variance is not granted will amount to more than a mere inconvenience. And with that, we'll call the first petition. Do we want to put that off to the end? We can do it now. Okay. And Susan is recused on this? Okay. This is a petition of Glenn and Gretel McCrory of Warwick, Rhode Island, for a 1-year extension of a variance that was previously granted on February 16, 2002 The property is located at 507-509 High Street in South Kingstown. And is there anyone here for this particular extension? Do we have anything on the record asking for this extension?
There was a letter from Attorney James Callahan requesting the extension, which I will read.
Thank you.
Dated December 21st to the Zoning Board. I hope you are both doing well. Please accept this letter on behalf of my clients, Glenn and Gretel McQuarrie. We are respectfully requesting an extension of the dimensional variances granted by the Zoning Board of Review for 507/509 High Street. The hearing was conducted on February 16th, 2022, and the decision was recorded on February 23rd, 2022. See attached. We are requesting an extension of the dimensional relief approval pursuant to South Kingston Code of Ordinances, Section 910A, a one-year time limit and one-year extension. Notably, the expiration for this project may fall under the two-year time period allowed by Section 908. However, out of an abundance of caution, we are filing this extension request. This project has endured a somewhat tortured path. After receiving the dimensional relief sought for the property in 2022, Glenn and Gretel realized that the preliminary plan that was approved for this project had expired. The prior owner of the property had previously secured preliminary plan approval. When they purchased the property, Glenn and Gretel did not know the prior owners had not submitted a final plan for the administrative approval by the planning department. At this point, Glenn and Gretel have submitted a preliminary plan reinstatement application to the planning board. We hope that the preliminary plan will be reinstated, and then we will apply for the final plan approval. It is highly unlikely that we will be able to complete those steps prior to the one-year expiration date pursuant to Section 910. With a one-year extension, Glenn and Gretel will hopefully be able to complete the necessary steps required prior to the issuance of a building permit. If this matter could be placed on the agenda prior to the expiration of the one-year period on February 23rd, 2023, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, James M. Callahan. And with that, he submitted the recorded zoning decision, which was recorded February 23rd, 2022, book 1822, pages 96 and 97.
Thank you, Jessica. Board members, any objection to granting this extension?
No.
No objection, so moved. One-year extension. Next petition is a petition of Kristen Lanosa. Pardon me? Okay,
I'll second.
all right, okay. Petition of Kristen Lanosa, 40 Kathleen Way, Manchester, Connecticut, for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to construct a portico and decorative roof attached to the front of the existing dwelling. The portico will be located 21.7 feet from the front property line. The required front yard setback is 25 feet. Relief of 3.3 feet is requested. The portico and the roof will also increase the nonconformity of the lot coverage to 29%. The maximum building lot coverage is 25%, and this is a nonconforming lot of record. A dimensional variance is required per zoning ordinance section 207, which covers the nonconforming lot, and section 907 standards of relief. Who's here for this petition?
Hi, my name is Chris Leclerc, K-R-I-S-L-E-C-L-E-R-C. I'm here as a last-minute substitution on behalf of my client, Kristen Lanosa.
All right, you want to raise your right hand, please? Testimony you're about to give, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
You may proceed.
Mr. Daniels, excuse me, would you like me to read into record?
Yeah, well, read the documentation. I'm sorry, Jess, yeah.
All right, we have an application signed and dated December 27th, 2022. The owner authorization signed and notarized December 28th, 2022. Limited contract boundary survey prepared by Christopher G. Palmer, PLS, and dated June 27th, 2022. 8 pages of construction documents prepared by Red House Drafting and Design dated June 22nd, dated June 2022. We have the 200-foot radius map and abutters list, the legal notice, the proof of certified mailings, the notarized affidavit of mailing, and we also have an authorization letter from Kristen Lenosa, which is allowing Chris to speak on her behalf.
Okay, go ahead, you may proceed. Tell us what you want to do.
Yeah, so I think you covered it. We need 3.3 feet increase in the front setback and 29% relief on the overall lot coverage. There's currently a concrete stoop already there that is takes up the space that would be utilizing as it is, and that's it.
So explain where the portico is going to go.
The front of the house, it's right in front of the front door. It's 4 feet out off of the house.
So on the overhead there, it's to this
Like top left,
bottom right?
top left,
Top right, okay,
top left.
gotcha.
Yep, it's kind of centered in where the driveway kind of curves there.
Okay,
Yeah, there you go. So it's 4 feet out off the house in the center, and then it's just a 2-foot overhang roof for 36 feet, linear feet of the rest of the house.
okay, so it looks like you're basically squaring off for the most part?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any questions, board members?
It looks like you're doing renovations.
Yes.
Could you discuss those a little bit? And I assume this is
Yes. Yep.
part of all of,
Yep. So there's an addition that went on the back of the house in place of the back deck, and then a new deck to be built to the side of it, covering where there was an existing deck. The addition is a master suite, the portico, and then new siding, new roof, and that's essentially it.
so the house is basically in the same footprint?
Yep. Yeah, we haven't.
Just the
It-
portico that in a way is already there, and it's by the driveway?
It's on the front, yeah, and then the addition, which is in place of an existing deck that was already there. Yep.
So, go ahead, Susan, you have more?
Oh, well, I'm going to look and see if I have more.
The owners intend to live here full-time, or is this a summer residence, or?
It's currently a summer residence. She will retire here in a few years.
The portico is going to be further out than the front step, right?
No, nope,
It's going to be 3,
4 feet off the house, yep. The same distance as the current concrete step that's there.
okay. Yeah, I thought it was coming out to 6 feet.
Nope. Yep, it's 4 feet off the house.
And the front step is presently there.
Yep.
And so the relief that you're seeking is, one part to the relief that you're seeking is because that front step is there, but the portico, that was approved at some other time, but you're not going to be any closer to the property, front property line, right?
Yeah, no further closer than the step that's already there.
So we're really it's only the percentage of the, that we're dealing with, right?
So no further.
Correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Mr. Diamond?
I was just going to say, just clarifying, so there's no further encroachment past the outermost point.
Yeah, no, not than what's already there, no.
Ms. Walsh, you have anything further?
Yep, so you've seen it.
Did you have anything? All right, folks, what do you think? Any problems with this application?
No, it seems to be almost having the same footprint to the front property line, and coverage is probably pretty much going to be the same. So it's there, and there's nothing else we can do with it other than approve, in my estimation.
Anyone else wish to speak on behalf of this application? Anyone want to speak in opposition to this application? Then we'll entertain a motion. Yes?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess I'll make a motion.
I knew you would, Mr. Rosen.
Not always. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the petition as presented by the chairman for the property at, let me get my glasses on too so I can see, 20 Meadow Street in South Kingstown. Only one individual spoke, that was a Chris
Leclerc.
correct?
Yep.
There were no individuals speaking in opposition or support of this petition, and as a consequence, I move approval of the petition with respect for the following reasons. The board finds that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to the physical or economic disability of the applicant. Mainly because all that's going to happen is they're putting a roof over the front step as such, and everything else is pretty much, in terms of the percentage coverage of the lot, is going to be pretty much the same. The board finds that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain, because nothing much is going to be added. The variance is within the confines of what is already there, and the individual who is asking for this petition is apparently going to retire in this house and live there permanently in a couple of years. The board finds that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or comprehensive plan upon which the ordinance is based, because that house has been there for a while, I assume, and it looks within character to the rest of the houses that are in the neighborhood. The board finds that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary, actually, because there is really no substantial addition to any of the nonconformity associated with the property already. The board finds that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, simply because they're already undergoing renovations, and the renovations are going to occur to this, with respect to this variance, as the other renovations take place, which are within the confines of the law, or the ordinance, I should say. And as a result, I move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Walsh. I'm sorry, Ms. Hicks. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, Mr. Diamond. Looking for a vote.
Oh, aye.
Mr. Rosen.
Aye.
Ms. Hicks. Ms. Walsh. Mr. Daniels, aye. Motion passes. Good luck.
Thank you.
Tell your clients good luck. and-
Yep, she'll be happy. Thank you. Do you need me still? Do I need to stay here for the rest of it? Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
You're good. Next petition is the petition of Paul Clow, hope I'm saying it correctly, 585 Red House Road, Wakefield, for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to construct a 30 by 40 detached residential garage. The building height of the garage will be 26 feet. The maximum height allowed for accessory structures is 20 feet, so the relief of 6 feet is being requested by the applicant. The lot size is 13.75 acres. A dimensional variance is required per the zoning ordinance, section 401 and section 907. Owners of the property are Paul J. and Jennifer M. Clow for premises located at 585 Red House Road in South Kingstown. And Jess, would you read the documents into the record?
We have an application that's signed. We have an owner authorization signed and notarized January 9th, 2023. We have a draft survey prepared by Situate Surveys, Inc., and dated September 15th, 2008. We have 7 pages of barn plans dated December 13th, 2022. We have a 200-foot radius map and a butters list, legal notice, proof of certified mailings, and notarized affidavit of mailing.
Thank you. Good evening, and you are?
I'm Paul Clow, C-L-O-U-G-H. I'm here for the dimensional relief of height of the regulations of the town of South Kingstown.
You want to raise your right hand?
I would.
The testimony you're about to give, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you. So my intent is to construct a 30 by 40 foot residential garage with a loft. One of the reasons I'm seeking this dimensional variance is that I intend within my building permit application to have a full second floor area within this barn for a future in-law and/or accessory apartment. And I'd like for that space to be of full dimension with a full 8-foot ceiling and no encumbrance. In addition, the first floor of this property will be basically a footprint large enough to store 4 automobiles. I have a collector car, Passion, and I have also 2 automotive lifts. So in fact, the first floor is going to be storing 6 automobiles, 2 on top of one another. And that actually increases the height of the first floor by about 2 feet. And then that combined with the roof brings me up to that 6-foot ridge height. A large portion of this building is going to be within the existing topography of the land. So it's going to actually, I would say about 40% of the back of this barn is going to be placed into an 8-foot hill. So on the back of the gable end, the actual building will only be well under the 20-foot required space. But the front of the building, because it's at the land drops away, will be higher. So I didn't know if this variance is required as the highest point in the structure, or is it an average throughout the whole structure?
We'll get that answer for you.
Okay. And I think that the building itself is going to be well within the character of the surroundings. So I'm on a 14-acre lot, largely wooded. Some impact of like agricultural stuff. That's why I'm kind of going for this look, more of a New England traditional barn rather than just a thing.
Where are you storing your automobiles currently?
So I have a business in Charlestown, Rhode Island, by the name of Windor, and at that building I have a very large area, 5,000 square feet of building that I'm storing my cars at now.
Okay. Jamie, you want to address that question of the height, from what point the height is determined?
Absolutely, it's a good question. So the existing grade elevations, it would be the average of the 4 outermost corners. So I think we have I can bring it up on the screen here now. The topography is shown on here, varies. It looks like it slopes off. This is the approximate location he's indicated. It varies from elevation 124 here to 130 here. so about a 6-foot deviation. So I think because he's here now, and if you're not exactly sure, you're probably you should be safe, because on the lower end or the greater end, you could be 26 if approved, and then if it's in the hill, it would be up to, 14 feet. You would still be within the reg.
Exactly.
That answer your question, sir?
It does. Thank you.
You have anything else?
No, that's what I had, but I'd obviously entertain any thoughts or questions the board might have happily.
Okay, board members, anyone like to talk to Mr. Clo about this application?
Yes. The loft is going to be fully usable from somebody. So you're going to have to get water, and you're going to have to get electricity, et cetera, all of that stuff in there. You're going to use this as an ADU, you said, for an in-law as such. There's no plans to rent this out to anybody else.
He's not here seeking approval to actually use it that way tonight, from my understanding. Right, you just want the extra height so that at some point in the future, you could potentially establish it as a dwelling unit? Am I right on that?
That is exactly right.
So I would suggest to the board, just consider, for tonight, that's the only thing he's here asking for, is just the height of the structure. The plans don't indicate a dwelling unit. If you think it's appropriate, you could add a condition of approval to the effect that dwelling unit shall not be established until, review and approval is appropriate. I think it's quite likely we're gonna see an updated accessory dwelling unit statute probably this year. We already have an ADU ordinance on the books, but, in a year or two, or whenever he might want to establish the dwelling unit, let's deal with those questions then when he has that applications before the board. That would be my advice.
So the implication there is that he will probably have to come back for approval of an ADU.
He may or may not, depending on what the state decrees with regard to accessory dwelling units and what authority the town can and can't have over them.
Okay, so that has not been established yet.
Well, it has, but it's, the indications I've gotten are likely that it may change. Yeah.
Okay, the height of this building, what's going to be the height of the barn itself?
26 feet to the ridge on the front north-facing property, where you can kind of see an elevation of about 124 feet, the grade level. So from that point, it'll be 26 feet higher.
Okay, but if you go from the floor of the structure to the peak of the structure, what's that height?
26 feet,
That's going to be the 26 feet,
yes.
and 25 is allowed, correct?
20 is allowed.
20 allowed, okay, so this is 6 feet of variance, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Walsh?
Mr. Chairman, I had a follow-on question for council. Now, can we be concerned about, since he stated we're going to have electricity and water, is it appropriate to ask about the sewer capacity?
At this point, I think it's premature, because I don't think he would, that doesn't come into play until a dwelling unit is established, correct? Yeah,
Okay,
so I think those questions will be appropriate when and if he comes before the board or the building official with, establishing a dwelling unit up there, but not now.
That would be planning, most likely, right?
It depends.
Good.
To be determined.
Yes, we'll hold our breath. What kind of cars? No, I'm joking. I'm only joking.
I'd like to know.
Well, you could ask later, Mr. Chairman. Okay, I went out to look at it, and it was, you've got plenty of space out there.
Yes, I do.
Even in the winter, there was plenty of foliage and things where I didn't even see a neighbor. On the way in, I did. So I have no problems with locating that dwelling there.
Thank you.
13 acres, I guess, is enough room.
Well, it's a nice setting.
Thank you.
Ms. Hicks, do you have anything?
No, I also took a ride out to see
nice.
your property, and based on the amount of acreage you have, I don't see any problem with you locating an additional structure there. So I assume that for your purposes tonight, the loft upstairs will be unfinished.
That is correct.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks. Mr. Diamond? Nothing?
Makes perfect sense to me.
Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none, I assume your presentation is complete, Mr. Clow?
It is.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve this petition for a dimensional variance for an accessory building, really a garage with a loft space to be built at the property of Mr. Paul Clow at 585 Red House Road in South Kingston. The records were read into the minutes by our administrator. The following individuals spoke. Mr. Clow presented it himself. There was no one speaking in support or in opposition. And as I say, the materials were read into the record. And this is a dimensional variance for a building that will be 6 feet higher than is allowed in this part of the town of South Kingstown. It's got plenty of acreage. It's only for the height of variance of 6 feet. And there's plenty, as I say, there's plenty of room, plenty of foliage around it, and the design appears to conform with the buildings in the neighborhood. The hardship, the board finds that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area. The board finds that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain, because it appears that really he's looking to build a garage that can hold his vehicles out of the weather and present finished space for future use. The board finds that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan on which the ordinance is based. The board finds that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. Because of the location of the accessory building, it's partially built into kind of an incline in the topography, and the actual 6 feet of height above the 20 feet allowed is not going to be the whole building, and even then, where the building is located, it's not going to be that visible. The board finds that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property, if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, because right now the owner of the property is maintaining his vehicles at a different location, and this presents some inconvenience for him now, and this will, in a neat way, I don't mean that as a subjective, but anyways, in a simple solution, it solves the issues, the inconvenience. There are no conditions placed on this approval, and therefore I move that we approve the petition.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. Do we hear a second?
I'd like to second.
Second by Mr. Diamond. Any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, Ms. Walsh?
I approve. Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Mr. Rosen?
Aye.
Ms. Hicks?
Aye.
Mr. Daniels, aye. Congratulations, you're all set, good to go. Enjoy those automobiles. Next petition is the petition of Bob and Joyce Bouchard of 4 Cider Lane in Greenville, Rhode Island, for a dimensional variance under the zoning ordinance as follows. The applicant is seeking to demolish the existing manufactured home and construct a 3-story dwelling located 23 feet from the front property line. The front property line is described as Middlebridge Road, and 16.9 feet from the corner side property, Hahn Avenue. The required front and corner side setback is 25 feet. Relief of 2 feet and 8.1 feet is requested. The proposed building lot coverage will be 28.9%, whereas the maximum allowed is 25. Relief of 3.9% coverage is requested. The proposed gross floor area of the dwelling will be 2,470 square feet, where the maximum allowed in this zone is 1,800 square feet. Relief of 670 square feet is requested. The cumulative area of the proposed decks will be 430 square feet, whereas the maximum deck area allowed is 270 square feet. Relief of 160 square feet is requested. Lot size is 0.14 acre. A dimensional variance is required per the zoning ordinance, section 207. This is a non-conforming lot of record. And a schedule of dimensional regulations, section 401 and section 601, in that the property is located in a special flood hazard area overlay district, and section 907, standards of relief. And with that, would you read the documentation into the record?
We have an application signed and dated January 11th, 2023. We have an addendum dated January 18th, 2023. We have the owner authorization signed and notarized December 15th, 2022. We have 1 page of photographs. We have house plans A1, A2, A3, and A4 dated November 6, 2022. We have a plan of survey prepared and stamped by Daniel F. Harrington III, PLS, and dated January 26, 2021. We have a proposed site plan prepared and stamped by Daniel F. Harrington III, PLS, and dated January 8, 2021. We have a 200-foot radius map and a butters list. We have legal notices, proof of certified mailings, and notarized affidavit of mailing. We have 3 correspondents, one from Frank and Robin Giordano, 15 Cook Avenue, one from Martha Balma, 490 Middlebridge Road, and one from Robert and Noreen Massacott, 5 Cook Avenue.
All right, we'll read those into the record later on. Who's here for the applicant?
Good afternoon. My name's Paul DeMarco. I'm an attorney in East Greenwich, Rhode Island, and I'm here on behalf of Robert and Joyce Bouchard.
Who's going to testify for?
I expect you probably want to swear in Mr. Bouchard, and I'd just like to give you a general background after you've done that, maybe.
Could he repeat his name?
I'm sorry, it's Paul DeMarco, DeMarco.
Mr. Bouchard,
Yes.
name and spell it, please, for the record.
Robert K. Bouchard, Bouchard.
Raise your right hand. Testimony you're about to give, you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. DeMarco.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Bouchards purchased this property back in 1992. And in fact, they purchased it from Bob's sister, who owned it from 1977. So it's been in the Bouchard family for 45 years. I know you're familiar with the application. The lot is located on the corner of Middlebridge and Hahn Avenue. It's a 6,000 square foot lot. It's zoned R20 in a flood zone, and it is serviced by the town water and sewer. Currently, there is a 600 square foot mobile home or a manufactured home on the property. And that was built in 1950, so quite old. So the Bouchard's plan, going back to 1992, was to ultimately, if things worked out, was to retire, improve the property and retire there. As we move forward to 2023, Mr. Bouchard's retired after 40 years in the Cranston Public School System, where he was a school teacher, swim coach, track coach, tennis coach. Am I missing anything? They now have 3 grown children, 4 grandchildren, and they would really like to improve the property dramatically, as you can see, and retire there, and hopefully fill the house with more grandchildren. So to make this dream come true, they need some relief. So I know you're aware of, and you've read into the record, the relief that they would require. I wanted to point out one thing, however. The current footprint is actually 2 feet closer to Hahn Avenue than the proposed structure. So actually, they'd be creating more of a setback if their application is approved. But as you pointed out, they still need 2 feet of relief for the front yard, about 8 feet on the side, about 4% for the lot coverage, and also for the gross floor area. I think the application checks off most of the boxes that you're looking for. The hardship is certainly due to the unique characteristics of the land, particularly the square footage. The Bouchards certainly have not created the hardship by any prior acts. They haven't changed the size of the lot or subdivided it. They're not motivated by financial gain. They want to retire there. They want to make it their permanent home. They're currently living in Smithfield, Rhode Island, and they have no interest in selling the property for the near future or forever, perhaps. I think the proposed structure is does not alter the characteristics. I think the board's probably familiar with that area of Middlebridge. There are, over the last 10 or 15 years, there's been a lot of large homes built there. And even on Hahn Avenue itself, I make reference to 30 Hahn Avenue, and these are lots that are just a little bit larger than the Bouchard lot, but 30 Hahn, which was built in 1992, has about 1,700 square foot of living space there. 43 Hahn, which was built in 2006, that has a 3,825 square foot home built there with over 7,000 square feet of gross area. So I think it is in character, even though it is mixed. There are some smaller homes there, but there are also some much larger homes. I would encourage the zoning board to approve the petition. I know you may have some questions, and Mr. Bouchard can hopefully answer those for you. With that said, I would entertain any questions the board has.
You want to take any testimony from, or just questions?
I think I don't know if you'd like to say anything, Bob.
But Paul mentioned the same thing. We've been waiting to try to build there for years. I've been a school teacher for 40 years in Cranston, as Paul said, and coaching. We've enjoyed being down there. Obviously, you have the pictures of what we've been in for the last, 30 years. And the kids want to be there. And, we're building it for us, but we're really building it for the kids. We have 4 granddaughters, that are 7 and under right now. We want them to be down there, enjoy the water, enjoy everything else that's down there. And I think because the lot is small, it's a non-conforming lot, it's a corner lot. We didn't have, when I took it to the architect, everything else, there wasn't many options. And we're doing the best we can to build up. The basement is flood zone area. I can't use that as living space, so the 2nd and 3rd floor, we got to use as living space. We did the bedrooms specifically for the family. If we have the kids over for the holidays and everything else, they all have the bedroom. We have a bedroom, the kids have a bedroom, and that's why we put the bedrooms in there. We also put an elevator, if you look there. And I know the new trend is forever homes. I don't want to say that because I'm 65 years old. My wife Joyce is also 65, and I don't consider myself old, but it is reality. So we have an elevator that's on the plans there to put in there, and as mentioned already, this is what we like to do and retire in that area, and hopefully we can do that.
Thank you. Questions, board members?
Mr. Oh.
Yeah. 5 bedrooms?
5 bedrooms.
Yeah. That's quite a lot. First floor has to be because of the flood situation, and I understand that.
Correct.
The garage is going to go in there, right?
The garage is there, that's it, just the 2-car garage.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the objectors after we read the letters, but that's the number of questions I have at the moment.
Did you have any first?
Yes, Ms. Hicks?
Actually, for clarification, just to make sure that I'm orienting your house correctly on the property, the garage doors will face Middlebridge Road.
Correct.
Okay, because like I told the last applicants, I went for a ride, I saw the property. So the garage doors, the front door will face Middlebridge. Which side is the corner side yard that you're looking for the relief? Is it the Hahn Avenue?
It would be the Hahn Avenue side. And the Hahn Avenue side right now, the house, what's present on there, as Mr. DeMarco mentioned, is 2 feet closer to Hahn Avenue than what we proposed on that footprint.
Because I wasn't sure whether it was the Hahn Avenue side or the side directly opposite the Middlebridge.
Right, and I don't know if I think I put that in the application, that I wanted to try to keep the setbacks. That's why we did that. For the 2 neighbors that were there, we kept those setbacks that were 11 on both sides for the neighbors and not for the Hahn Avenue. And I think it's 1.8 or something like almost 2 feet for the Middlebridge, the front part of it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, it seems very reasonable. Seems like definitely the least relief necessary in my opinion.
You have anything?
I had similar question, and I thank you for answering it. Now, the little place behind with the, the lobster things hanging down, is that part of your property?
No,
Okay, so that's a neighbor.
that's the neighbor on the right-hand side of Hahn Avenue.
And
So
then
we're on
you're
the
the
left
other
with
one.
the
Yeah, which
little brown
I saw.
shack, we call it a shack, but a little brown house.
How many bathrooms are you going to put in the house? I'm sorry, I didn't look at the plans close enough.
There was
to
one on the first floor, and one in the master bedroom, and one on the second floor,
you're
so it would be
looking at-
3,
5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
correct?
But you are on the town,
Yeah, yeah, we
Sewer and
started
water.
a payment plan probably about, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago. They put us on the sewer and water at that point.
okay. Oh, and I know it seems like it's a lot, all of the waivers. I mean, I was really surprised because in a way it is building up in a place where there aren't any other, you go up the hill,
Right.
you've got the same. You go right down by the water and you've got the same. But in that middle section,
Yeah, well,
you don't have similar houses.
Well, funny that you said that, because I went down by there about a month ago, and I'm sure that you guys realize that, but there was a home placed on, I don't know, maybe 100 feet from mine, which is pretty much the same as what I'm looking for there, which is, I think it was a modular home that came in with the cranes and put it on there, and that's a 3-story building that's there.
It was down towards the water, wasn't it?
It was 1, 2, third house down on that street.
On
So, no, on Cook, the next street right over.
towards the water. No?
Well, we're on Han here, and Cook is right here. And we're all toward the water, yeah, about 2 houses toward the water closer. Because on Han Avenue, there's 1, 2, 3, there's 7 total houses, 3 on my side and 4 on the other side.
And you are planning to move in there as your residence? or
Correct.
Retirement home?
Correct.
I know we can't guarantee that. Okay. I think a concern of mine, Mr. Chairman, is this the least relief necessary? Because it is going to take up a big chunk of that property if it's built
Right.
as designed.
Least relief.
So if you could talk a little bit more about how this is a hardship for you if the house is any smaller? Because that's one of the waivers that I had some concerns about.
Well,
Going from a very small footprint,
Yeah.
even though, as you showed on your drawings, it's not that much more in terms of.
Yeah, I don't think it's practical to build on the current footprint. And I think Mr. Bouchard spoke to the hardship to his family because he's trying to accommodate his 3 children and his grandchildren. So I think that makes up the hardship. I don't think as I said, I don't think the current footprint gives Bob or Joyce any reasonable chance to build on that footprint. Am I correct?
Yeah, pretty
Bob?
much.
Yeah. It's irregular, isn't it?
It's a non-conforming corner lot.
But the footprint, the
That's-
current footprint?
Yeah, the current footprint, no.
And you've owned that for how long?
I've owned it since 1992, and my sister owned it for 15 years before that. So we were fortunate enough that she wanted to sell it, and she sold it to us. So,
So your intent was to live there and to accommodate your growing family? That was always your intent when you first purchased it? Or?
well, yeah. As far as, obviously, I had a job and everything else, and I'm living in the Smithfield area at that time, actually Johnston, then moved to Smithfield a little further out. And as we, over the years, been fortunate enough to go to the beach and stay there for a little while, we thought that this was the place that we wanted to be.
Okay.
I think that's evidenced by the fact that they've been there since '92 and they haven't touched the place really, have you? And they've been putting their money aside for this day. So now it's here. So, but yeah, it never. You said their family. Did you have any children in '92, Bob?
No.
No. So this has all happened since then.
Well, I would suggest that anything there is a slight improvement from
Yes.
You know, I meant to mention that when I was touching on the points that you look at. Yeah, I think, you know, removing, because of course it's going to be demolished, hopefully, and I think that would be improvement for the neighborhood values as well.
Further questions?
Mr. Chairman? Yes. So, do your children live in Rhode Island?
Correct. Yeah, I have,
All through, I'm just asking because I have also, well, actually, I have 5 granddaughters under 7 and a grandson and one on the way. So I hope you all catch up if you want to. But it would seem to me, if they're not with you constantly, that somehow you could downsize the house a little bit and maybe have a loft for the grandchildren or something like that. Did you consider that at all with the grandchildren?
not really, to be honest with you. Again, we entertain them a lot because my wife Joyce, and she can say that, we're like the patriarch of the families, and I have five siblings in mine. She had 4 in hers, and so a holiday, most of the holidays, 95% of them, except for obviously COVID, are at our house, and that's what we want to continue to do at another house, and again, and again, you guys know as well as I do, it's common sense, but economics-wise, you know, I'm fortunate that I'm able to build this right now and able to do this, and, you know, on a school teacher salary, my wife not working, raising the kids, she's staying home for the kids. I have the opportunity to do this now, and I don't want to be honest with you, I don't want to nickel and dime it, and I want to build something that's nice for them and their future, and, you know, again, who knows if I'm going to be there 5 years, 10 years, 15, you know, as far as my health and everything else is concerned, so, but that's, you know, that's it.
Yeah.
Mr. Diamond, do you have it?
Again, it seems reasonable to me. I think that when you have your grandchildren, you want all of them at the same time so they can all be together. So that makes sense to me.
Is there anyone, you have anything further, Mr. DeMarco, or?
No, unless you have some more questions, I don't have anything further.
Okay, stand by, just in case. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak in favor of the application? Come forward.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I didn't hear you say in favor. I have more questions than in favor.
Okay, would you identify yourself and spell your name, please?
Absolutely, sir. My name is John Chartier, Chartier. I reside at number 43 Hahn Avenue, Wakefield, Rhode Island, 02879, and I have lived on that property for over 55 years.
All right, you want to raise your right hand, please? Testimony you're about to give, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, you may proceed.
Okay. I have a couple of more or less questions about this application, and I read it in great detail. First of all, their attorney, Mr. DeMarco? Mr. DeMarco cited...
Excuse me once. Did you submit a letter to...
No.
You did not. Okay, go ahead. You may...
Mr. DeMarco cited the size of the property they are building, and he related it to the size of the property that I live on, which is located at 43 Hahn Avenue. My house is about 3,000 square feet. I have 4 times the lot size that the Bouchards are looking at building on. My second thing is, when I read their application, and I apologize for my voice. When I read their application, 3 or 4 times within the application, it said that they were building a quote-unquote modest retirement home. I've lived on that street for over 50 years. The trailer that they are knocking down was built by my Uncle Jim. It's a 2-bedroom trailer. They proposed to replace it with a 5-bedroom house on one property lot. And while I completely support their attempts to improve the property, I think that what they're trying to do is too big. A three-story building on a 60 by 100 lot, I think is too big. There is not another house on Hahn Avenue, including mine, which is the largest, that exceeds 3 bedrooms. I would love to see something at 2 or 3 bedrooms on that lot size and not 5. I will tell you quite frankly that there has been quite a bit of talk within the neighborhood that this is not being built, and I can only speculate that this is not being built to be a retirement home, that it's built to be a URI rental. I can't say yes or no to that, and I would propose that question through the chair to their attorney, but the lot is only 60 by 100, and they are trying to put a 5-bedroom house on it. I would love to see something improve it. God knows the town of South Kingstown should have condemned the trailer years ago, but they didn't, despite complaints to the building commissioner's office. I just think that it's time that we move forward in a more rational proposal. I think it should be something 2 or 3 bedrooms. I don't think it needs to be 5. God knows my house isn't 5. My house is 3, and I'm on 4 times the property size on the same street. I just think it's too big for the size that they're trying to squeeze it into, and I question what the long-term effect of that is going to be on the rest of the property on Hahn Avenue, because you're building a 3-story structure on Hahn Avenue. There is nothing on Hahn Avenue above 2. So this is a full 1-story higher than anybody else on the street.
Well, let me ask you this before I get to Mr. Bouchard, because I have a question for him based on your testimony. How does this impact you directly? Whether it's 5-bedroom, 10-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, how does that affect you personally?
I will tell you that the main effect personally for us is that as we turn into the street, we are faced day after day after day with a trailer that has been vacant for, I want to say now, 18 months, that the town should have condemned, in my opinion, and I was the state fire marshal, in my opinion, should have been condemned years ago, that we have to look at that.
But that's going away. That's going away, sir. That's going away.
I know that, but I just think that what they're talking about, 5 bedrooms, 3 stories high, would be the single largest property on the street, on the smallest lot on the street.
How big is the house on Cook Avenue that's under construction, do you know?
I do not know that, sir.
Okay.
But the board approved that. But I do know this, the lot size is much bigger than the one on Hahn Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Bouchard, would you, let me address your question you had earlier about URI rental.
I just wanted to point out for the record. When I was speaking about the size of the lots, I was relying on information from the tax assessor, and according to Mr. Schotter testified that his lot is 4 times the size of the Bouchard lot. According to the tax assessor, his lot is 0.29 acres, and the Bouchard is 0.16, so it's less than twice. So I think he's inflating the size of his property in relation to the Bouchards.
I would just say that this, the property which my parents bought in the 1950s, the lots are 60 by 100. 60 by 100. We have 4. You can do the math.
You own 4 lots. But your house is on 1 lot, but you own 4 lots?
All of them combined.
I see. Okay.
Again, I took the information from the website for the assessor.
Mr. Bouchard, you remain under oath, of course. Do you have any intention of renting this property to URI students?
Absolutely not.
Thank
Not
you.
a chance.
Further questions from the board? Anyone else wish to speak in favor or in opposition? Yes, sir. Did you submit a letter also, sir?
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
Negative.
Okay. Want to state your name and spell it for the record.
Robert Warren, W-A-R-R-E-N, 30 Hahn Avenue.
Raise your right hand. The testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Correct, I do.
Go ahead.
We're happy they're going to build on the property. Obviously, it's an eyesore. I do feel it's too big. My main concern is the 600-plus foot relief on the residential space. I believe him when he says he's not going to rent it, but that doesn't mean it's not going to change hands. I'm 68, looking to do the same thing, and, you don't know where you're going to be in a few years, and I just think we're, as you know, I'm sure, in South Kingstown, Narragansett, the short-term rental, Airbnb is a concern, and we're seeing that. So I just want to say that. And for the record, I will say that my property, I'm in the 1,700 square foot house that Mr. DeMarco mentioned. My property is 14.6 for the property, 14,600. So it is on a much larger lot. But I just feel that this house at the end of Hahn Avenue is going to be, I don't want to say an eyesore because it looks like a well-designed home. It's just going to be very large, and every time you turn in, you're going to have a very large house there. But my main concern is the 600 square foot variance for living space. I'm afraid what could happen to that property. Thank you. Thank you.
Jessica, we have, I think, 3 letters in opposition. Would you take each one and read each one into the record, please, for us?
Of course. So I have, Dear Mr. Gorman, my name is Frank Giordano. My wife Robin and I own the property at 15 Cook Avenue, South Kingstown, Rhode Island, since 1986. As we are not able to attend the meeting on February 15th, 2023, regarding the variance request for 4 Hahn Avenue, we would like to voice our opinion on a few matters. We look forward to Bob and Joyce Bouchard enjoying their property as Robin and I have for so long, and we certainly hope to become friends. I know that as recently as 2019, zoning ordinances were put in effect to limit the size of homes built on these small lots. We feel that these limits, as they are, already fail in some ways to maintain the general characteristics of our lovely little quaint neighborhood. We understand that change does happen, but feel the rules that the board put in place are quite liberal enough. Therefore, we ask that the board adhere to rules that I am sure took hours of their time and plenty of compromise. Thank you, Frank and Robert Giordano.
Thank you, Jess. Want to read the next one?
Sure.
Mr. DeMarco, I'll give you a chance to respond to these when... Yeah, do you wish to comment on this particular letter? Yes, you may. Sure.
Or just in general to,
Name and spell.
Joyce Bouchard, Bouchard.
Promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you may proceed. Go ahead.
Okay, the Giordano's, I find it a little funny with their letter because we bought their boat from them, so they do know us. They almost sound like they don't know us, but they're only here seasonal because they now reside in Florida. But that's not really the issue. I'm addressing the issue as far as renting this house to students. It took us this long, and you all see what that house looks like, to build this house. There is no way that I am letting anyone in this house that we've had to scrape and save for to build. It's just not possible. So I don't know where the rumor started, how it started, but that's not true. The reason for the bedrooms, and none of these bedrooms are small, they are bedrooms that fit basically a bed and a bureau, is because out of our 3 children, 2 of them are school teachers. So they have the summers off. My children were down there in the summer growing up back in the day. Now, their children, 2 years ago, we rented a beach house in Narragansett that had 6 bedrooms. It was the best time ever that my grandchildren had. Bob and I are both 65 years old. Right now, we're healthy. I'm a breast cancer survivor, so I'm very healthy at this point, which is great. But there's going to be a day that we're not going to be here. So in the summer, we want to spend time with them, and they are able to do that because of the professions that they've chosen. But as far as, I don't know where the rumor started. We never said we would rent. We would never rent. I worked too hard, and we worked too hard for this money to rent. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Ms. Bouchard, and God bless as a survivor. Next.
Okay, 1 second. Dear Jessica, as discussed on the phone, I received a letter asking for several zoning variances at the above-mentioned lot. I own the property at 490 Middlebridge Road, directly across the street, and am unable to attend the formal hearing. I object to the exceptions to the zoning ordinance because there was no reason listed as to why the official zoning would cause hardship to them. I could see the request if it was a small lot, but it's not. That lot is big enough to build a decent-sized house without expanding the footprint. Permitting relief to the existing zoning will just further block the view and create more shade on the surrounding properties. Additionally, is there a law that requires the house to fit in with its surroundings? Every house in the area is miniature by comparison. As a second question, I would like to know what the plan is for the mailboxes. I don't know if I'm going to, the rest of it isn't really relative, so I'm going to skip that. Sincerely, Martha Balmett, 490 Middlebridge Road, South Kingstown, Rhode Island.
And you have one more, I think, Jessica?
Yes. This one's a long one. All right. Dear zoning board members, we are the owners of the property at 5 Cook Avenue, South Kingstown, Assessor's Map 43-1, Lot 21. We are responding to the notice we received regarding a request for a dimensional variance for the property located at 4 Hahn Avenue, South Kingstown, Assessor's Map 43-1, Lot 20. We are unable to attend the meeting in person and respectfully request that you read the following and consider our comments when making your decision on the variance. We appreciate your understanding and consideration in this situation. We do not wish to serve as an impediment to Mr. and Mrs. Bouchard's retirement home. We purchased our cottage for the same reason as stated in their application and to spend time with our grandchildren who live in the area. We understand the hardships associated with a non-conforming corner lot, but after reviewing the application, the scope of the variance has raised some concerns. Our main concerns regarding this request are as follows. 1, the proposed increase from the maximum allowed lot coverage. The proposed lot coverage will be at 28.9%, where the maximum allowed is 25%. 2, the proposed increase in the gross floor area. The proposed gross floor area will be 2,470 square feet, whereas the maximum allowed is 1,800 square feet. 3, the increase in the maximum deck area. The cumulative area of the proposed decks will be 430 square feet, whereas the maximum allowed is 270 square feet. We are basing our comments on our understanding that the current zoning ordinance was put in effect in 2019 and are intended to limit the size of structures being built on small lots in the area, and that in granting the variance, the board requires evidence in accordance with Section 907. We have framed our responses around those standards. And then he's going on to list the standard. So that hardship from which the applicant seeks relief is due to unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area. In our opinion, the characteristics of Lot 20 at 4 Hahn are not unique and are like the general characteristics of many of the surrounding lots. Most of the lots are the same size, 0.14 acre, and if the owners of these lots wanted to build a home with the same gross floor area and maximum deck area as the petition, they would be asking for similar relief. 2, that the granting of the requested variance will not alter the general characteristics of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan of the town. We feel that the proposed variance to the existing regulations will alter the general characteristics of the surrounding area. The homes in the immediate vicinity with similar sized lots are significantly smaller than the proposed variance, with an average square footage of approximately 667 square feet. The gross floor area relief sought in this application, 670 square feet, is larger than the gross floor area of several of the surrounding homes. Please refer to the following diagram illustrating the gross floor area of the existing homes in the area. The areas shown are taken from the assessor's database. In addition, the current zoning regulations on a non-conforming corner lot allow for an 11-foot setback in the rear of the house. While we understand that the regulations allow for this setback, the rear decks facing our house have a combined area of 336 square feet, which is 66 square feet above the maximum deck area allowed for the entire dwelling. The second floor rear deck has an area of 286.5 square feet. This deck's area alone exceeds the maximum deck area allowed by the ordinance and will be located 11 feet from the property line. As stated earlier, it is our understanding that the current regulations were put in effect in 2019 and are intended to limit the size of structures being built on small lots in the area. In our opinion, granting the variance and allowing a gross floor area of 2,470 square feet, an increase of 37% above the zoning regulations, and a maximum deck area of 430 square feet, an increase of 59% above the zoning regulations, will impair the intent of the ordinance and allow what the ordinance will impair the intent of the ordinance and allow what the ordinance was designed to prevent. To the standard that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. We understand that the homes in this area were built many years ago and that new homes being built on non-conforming lots may be larger than existing homes. We feel that the current zoning ordinance allows for this increase and that no relief is necessary. The relief requested is because the owners want to build a residence with a gross floor area and a maximum deck area that is above those required in the ordinance and not due to the specific characteristics of the lot. The hardship in granting a dimensional variance, that the hardship that will be suffered by the owner of the subject property if the dimensional variance is not granted shall amount to more than a mere inconvenience, which shall mean that there is no other reasonable alternative to enjoy a legally permitted beneficial use of one's property. We feel that conformity with the existing provisions of the zoning ordinance provides a reasonable alternative and will provide a beneficial use of the property through the construction of a residence with a gross floor area and a maximum deck area in accordance with the ordinance. For these stated reasons, we feel that the board should not grant the dimensional variances. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Respectfully, Robert and Noreen Massacott, 5 Cook Avenue.
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. DeMarco, before I ask you to respond, if you wish to respond to any of this correspondence, I just have a question for the building official. Jamie, is it fair to say that most or a substantial number of the lots in this particular area are substandard?
That's accurate, correct.
So is it also fair to say that any enlargement, a foot, 2 foot, 3 feet, would be in here for a variance? Is that correct? If someone wished to add on to their property or to reconstruct a portion of their building, unless it would be in the same footprint?
I guess it would really depend on where the current building is located with respect to the setback or the front property line side.
So any infringement, what I'm getting at is any infringement by any property owner in the area within the setbacks would require them to be here.
Correct. And I just note that the bulk regulation that they're requesting relief from, that's the floor area and the deck area, is specific to structures that are located in the floodplain. So, something to note.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DeMarco, do you wish to respond to any of the objectors' letters?
Obvious theme is everyone thinks, or the objectors think the property's too big, the house is too big. But I think the Bouchards have argued convincingly before you why they need a house of that size. So I get it. Not dumb. They think it's too large for a lot, but again, I think they make a good case for the size of house that they propose.
All right, thank you. Board members, before we discuss the application here, any questions, further questions for either the applicant or any of the objectors?
I do.
Ms. Hicks?
In the last letter of opposition, it sounded like the writer of the letter was saying that the proposed house was over 2,000 square feet. Am I correct in that?
Square feet.
Okay, because in front of me, I have the application submitted by the Bouchards, and item 9, it says size of proposed buildings additions, total square feet, 1734.5. So, I guess the question is this accurate?
What, can I ask what page you're looking at? Or,
It's the application, page 2, item 9. There's no addition. Yeah,
It does state 1734 and a half.
but it says size of proposed buildings. Yeah, but they're not doing an addition, they're doing a new house. Yeah, okay.
Delta between the current structure and the new.
I think the question becomes, how was it advertised?
As the notice indicates, the proposed gross floor area of the dwelling will be 2470 square feet.
Okay, all right. So then my next question is a hypothetical, and it has nothing to do with this particular. If somebody had a lot that was exactly the same size and came in and proposed a footprint that did not exceed the amount of coverage they were allowed to have without going for a variance, could they then go up 4 floors and not need a variance as long as they stayed within the footprint that didn't require a variance, so that they had all the setbacks?
so if it's located in the floodplain, they'd be regulated by the floor area, but 4 stories, that would exceed the 35 maximum building height.
Okay, so there is a height restriction.
3 stories.
This house doesn't exceed the height restriction.
Correct.
They are not before the board for bedroom number or for height. They are before the board for setback, deck area, and gross floor area.
Thank you.
Ms. Walsh, did you have any questions for?
I thought I heard that there was going to be an elevator in the house. I just wanted to ask a little bit, that's probably your planning ahead.
Correct.
I know I could probably use an elevator.
I have a couple of friends, the same thing, and they suggested that strongly to me, and so that's what I decided to go on that.
And that takes up a fair amount of,
Yeah, a lot of it, a lot of the space there too is, as mentioned here, is because it's in the flood zone, and the stairwell has to be there for access to the house, and obviously it's a non-conforming lot that's there. So, the flood zone has a lot to do, and that was a great question as far as the height of it. And when I first started this, way back when, they said when I came in here, this was years ago when I was trying to do it, they said you can 34 feet high, and that's what I'm conforming to, is the 34 feet high. And I asked them about bedrooms at that particular time, and they said it's unlimited at that time, that you could put whatever you want as long as I would confirm it to federal laws, and they were 34 feet high, and that's what we did.
You good, Ms. Walsh? You have more? Mr. Rosen, you have?
Yeah, Mr.
questions?
Bouchard. 1,800 square feet is what's allowed for the gross floor area. you have proposed 2,470 feet. If we denied, what would you do to get down to that 1,800 or close to it?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I'm Joe Teacher right now. I don't know all that stuff. This has been a task for me to begin with, and I'm not, I'm not the tech guy. I'm not the architect guy. I've been dealing with the architect coming here. Jessica knows with the, dealing with the building inspector going back and forth, and it's been a task to begin with, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, you've got 3 bedrooms on the 3rd floor, correct?
Correct.
The master bedroom is up there plus 2 other bedrooms.
Right.
And two bedrooms on the 2nd floor. The obvious thing, it seems to me, would be to reduce the size of the 3rd floor. So the gross floor area would reduce at that point and take out 2 bedrooms.
Again, I'm trying to build my house. That's the house, our dream house, and that wouldn't be our dream house that we want to put in this particular area and spend the rest of our time with. So,
I agree with you that you almost have to have three floors.
yes,
The first floor is essentially a waste because
Correct.
it's a flood zone. And you can only use that for a garage. You did say you had a bathroom down there.
no, we don't have a bathroom on the basement floor. No, the first floor. Well,
You
second
have
floor.
3 bathrooms, you're proposing to have 3 bathrooms in the,
One on the 2nd, 2 on the 3rd.
or 2 are on the 3rd, okay.
Yeah, so if
You
guests
also
are on the
have a-
3rd, they can use that one, and the master bedroom was for master bedroom.
At any rate, I understand that part of it, but there's obviously some objection, and in truth, if I were a homeowner in that area, and there was a 3-story house on that particular corner, surrounded by the smaller structures that are around it, and up across the way on Middlebridge,
Well,
I would be somewhat disturbed like the objectors.
well, again.
But I also understand there's another structure going on Cook Avenue, which is obviously in a larger lot than you presently have, but it is 3 stories.
It is 3 stories.
It sticks out.
It might be on a larger lot, but most of that lot is a water lot. If you go by there right now, you'll see water on that lot. So it might be a little bit of a larger lot, but they
Well-
couldn't build on there because
Yeah, when I was
there's
there,
water
I was
on
not
there.
able to get down that road because of the construction that was going on that lot.
Right.
But I could tell that the lot was larger. I didn't know whether it was wet or not.
Oh, it's wet.
But that's not my point. My point is that structure stuck out to me. The other 2 houses, as these 2 gentlemen have referred to, that are down at the end of Hahn Street, I went down there, and they're both 2-story.
Right. But I don't have an option to,
I assume they're in a floodplain too,
right.
but they must have been built before the regs came in.
Mm.
So, this is Mr. Chairman, somewhat of a conundrum for me. Okay.
We can talk about it. Mr. Rosen, I believe that the house on Cook Avenue was approved by this board. Am I correct, Jamie?
That's correct. I believe the last name is Cardinal.
Years ago,
Correct.
a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yes.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, I do. Mr. Diamond?
My stance is still the same on this. It makes sense to me. I think the proportions are very reasonable. It seems the width is proportional to everything going on in the neighborhood. My apologies. The width of the structure is proportional to other things on the street. Obviously, the height is higher, but it just in terms of the vernacular of the area and the fact that the floodplain, the height is justified in my opinion. I think it's smart. I think it makes sense. I think if it was a lot wider, it would be inappropriate. But I think that you have, you know, what looks like 3 bays, you know, 3 window bays running vertically, and that's pretty consistent with what you have in the neighborhood in terms of just the rhythm of the house and the other houses nearby. I think it's a thoughtful approach, in my opinion, and if the program to me makes sense.
With those comments, we'll close the hearing, and the board will discuss the matter. I think your point is well taken. I feel much the same, that it's a transitional neighborhood. There's a number of new homes and remodeled homes and tear-downs and build-ups throughout the neighborhood. If you look at the overall neighborhood, if you look at one street, you could make a case that maybe one particular structure is not compatible with the other older structures. But if you look at the entire neighborhood, the Middlebridge neighborhood, I don't think this is out of place at all. And I'm moved by the testimony that the applicant has made, in my opinion, has made his case for the reason he wants this size of house. He has a big family. He has a number of siblings. His wife has a number of siblings. He has a number of grandchildren. So, 5-bedroom house in this day and age with a family like that, to me, I don't have a problem with it. I think it's compatible with the neighborhood. If we look at the overall structure of the neighborhood, it's a changing neighborhood. And there's a number of new houses and remodels going on, as I see it, in that neighborhood. So I agree. In looking at the criteria to deny the application, I just can't find any.
Quick question, Jamie. Is the floor, the gross floor area include the first floor area?
It does not. That's so the livable area only. So that first story is for parking and storage only. So no living area is allowed down there.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Walsh, you want to weigh in?
I understand completely about the family and the desire to have the family be able to be together, especially since they're here in the area, and the great times, because that's what's important. But I still, in my gut, feel that the house is a little bit excessive in terms of size to ask for that amount of relief when they could be working with, what was it, 17? I mean, when you take the 700, I don't know how much relief they're asking for, but it seems like a lot. Even though I understand why they want 5 bedrooms, it would seem to me that that's maybe not the least relief necessary in order to get approval to build the house. And I hear what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, that maybe the neighborhood is in transition. I know up on the hill and down by the water, there are similar houses, and it's this one enclave in a way that it maybe doesn't fit in. But it just, the size of it, and it just, I wish they could build a loft or, a smaller area on the 3rd floor, or look at a, more of an open area for the families, their children, because it just seems a lot of relief requested. The same thing with the deck. I think it's going to be probably a lovely deck, but does it need to be that large? Is it the least relief necessary? So I guess I accept the comparability, but not the relief, the amount of relief.
I'm just trying to do the math here.
Well, I'm sure Jamie can tell us the math.
He probably can, but I'll
I've got
put this on the record and we can go from there. The applicant is seeking a dwelling that will be 2,470 square feet. He's seeking a relief well, I'm looking at the building lot coverage at 28.9, whereas the maximum allowed is 25, that's 3.9. So if you take 3.9, call it 4% of 2,470 square feet, it doesn't amount to much. It amounts to 100 square feet. Am I correct?
You're correct, but those are two different sections of the ordinance, so typically what the board will hear
Yes.
is the lot coverage. So they're
understand.
seeking relief from that, but also the floor area is different. So, you know, the 3.9, they're over just on the footprint, and then floor area is measured cumulatively and separately.
And a gross floor area limitation is something that is particular to this property because it's in the special flood hazard area overlay district. That's usually coverage and height are the only kind of limiting dimensions that control the size of the building, but here we have an additional gross floor area limitation. So coverage, setback, gross floor area limitation, and deck size.
So the gross floor area is, includes the floodplain restriction area, correct? Is that part of the gross floor area?
Yeah, it's pulled from section 601, which is just relative to properties in the floodplain, correct?
Okay.
And it's non-conforming already, but it's a corner lot, and doesn't that add something? That's the distances to the, the setbacks. And what is the rear of the proposed house? What is the rear yard setback? Because that wasn't on the application.
So on a corner lot, there's no rear yard. There'd just be a front, a corner side, and then the remainder would be sides.
So it's 11 and 11. But I mean, my concern, Mr. Chairman, is the size of the square footage. But I'd be interested in hearing more about what you have to say about, from your perspective.
I
About
would say,
the size.
yeah, I would say this. I would say it's clearly very important to the neighborhood and the community and those who are here, the objectors included, that this doesn't become a college party house, right? And I think that when you start to shave off square feet, and clearly the program, I always talk about the program drives the need for the thing that you're asking for, and then we determine as the board, is that thing the least relief necessary? It all stems from the program of the building, right? And if the program of the Bouchards is to have 5 bedrooms because of the size of their family, I think inevitably what happens is when you pare back the size of the structure, you make the bedrooms smaller. I don't know if anybody wins. They get a house that doesn't really fit their needs, but in the future, what does that end up becoming? You all can tell me what a 5-bedroom house that is consistent of small bedrooms becomes. It becomes like animal house, right? It becomes a college house. And I think that that's precisely what folks don't want to see. So I think that it would be counterproductive to shrink the size, because I think what it results in is precisely what you don't want to see. I think if you want to preserve it as a upper end family house, which this is proposed to be, I would preserve it as is, and nothing about it to me, again, seems out of proportion in terms of the width, which I think is really in our purview, the height, not as much. Because I don't think there's any proposal to shave down an entire floor. That's not going to happen. What you might do is shave down the width, which I don't think is the problem, and what you might do is shave down the length, which I also don't think is the problem, because you don't perceive the length from the street, you perceive the width. So the width is a non-problem, and the height is a variable that doesn't matter, because we're not going to get there tonight by chopping off a whole floor. Chopping off a whole floor of this house results in far more than a mere inconvenience, by my opinion. So that's my opinion on this.
I don't disagree with you. I think that's a well-taken argument. I don't think we can impose, if we should choose, I wouldn't choose, but if someone would choose to impose a no rental on this, I don't think we can do that. No. But we have the testimony and the sworn testimony from Mr. and Mrs. And it's compelling testimony that they intend to live here, and they need that space for their family, so I'm good with it. Mr. Rosen, you want to step up?
I'm going to make Amy. Am I stepping up? No, I'm cogitating, so. I'm not going to make a motion, no.
You have anything further to add to the
No,
table here?
no, I'm still thinking it over.
You good?
I don't know if I'm good yet,
Well, let's talk some more.
but I will vote when the vote comes.
I would ask respectfully, tell us what's holding you up. Tell us what the issue is.
It's what's been stated before. It's a large house. It's going to be surrounded by very small houses. I understand the argument about the neighborhood. We've been in that neighborhood before. We've considered other properties there, bigger properties, I might add, some very big. And it is a neighborhood in transition. I agree.
So under,
So
under which standard would you deny of the five different standards needed for passage? Where would you deny based on the fact that it doesn't fit in the neighborhood?
No, I deny on the basis of least relief,
Least relief, okay.
because I understand Mr. Diamond's argument, and he knows a lot more than I do, that's for sure.
It all depends.
Well, I'm not into building, and I'm not into this type of stuff. I'm just a retired scientist, so.
Are you compelled?
That's where I'm caught.
Okay.
Okay?
Are you compelled by the applicant's testimony
No,
as?
I'm sympathetic to the applicants. I understand the position they're in. And the idea of having an elevator appeals to me very much, because who knows when you're going to go, and getting up to the third floor is not going to be easy a couple of years from now for anybody, including myself. It's just the least relief, and it is a small lot, and there's not a heck of a lot you can do, and it is in a floodplain. I understand all those arguments. And,
Six. How do you feel?
How do I feel? I'm sympathetic to the abutters. I understand that this is a change and that it's a much bigger house than the little manufactured property that's there now. I'm sympathetic to the Bouchards, and I understand why they want to build the house that's proposed. And what I would say is that I think, whether we're talking about this house or other, this is the new reality. I think if you take a ride around South Kingstown, you can go to Narragansett, you can go to Jamestown, to Middletown, to Newport. What you see is properties being torn down and replaced by bigger houses, existing properties being added onto, and I just think that this is the new reality. So I think that we're sitting here as a board, I can probably predict that in the future we're going to have even more applicants coming in from that neighborhood and others looking to do the same type of thing, to take a small existing house and either level it or add to it. But going back to this particular application, while I understand that it is bigger than what's allowed, based on the testimony from both of the Bouchards, I would vote for it. And I'm going to take them at their word that it is not going to be built as a rental.
I appreciate your perspective, because when you look at what you just brought forward, there are a lot of substandard lots in South Kingstown, and we see this all the time with people wishing to improve their circumstances with regard to retirement, children, all that. So I think your perspective is very well taken. Ms. Walsh?
Yeah, I agree also. I have a lot of sympathy for the neighbors. I have sympathy for the Bouchards, because this is your dream home. And unfortunately, you don't own a dream lot. I mean, this is as close as you're going to get to your retirement lot. But when do we as a board draw the line? I mean, the Planning Commission and the ordinance are established. It may be they'll be changed in the future, but this, of all my 2 years, this is the most relief that I've seen in any case. Relief everywhere. And that just, when do you draw the line, Mr. Chairman? And say, this makes the ordinance, meaningless in a way. And maybe I'm overreading it, and we could ask the council if, we have granted waivers in all of these areas, but just not necessarily this much. Is this really the least relief necessary?
I'll ask my colleague, Mr. Diamond, to reestablish his discussion with regard to least relief that you stated earlier. Maybe we can convince Ms. Walsh, maybe we can't. But
Right, and I don't intend to sway any opinion. I see it the way that I see it. Talking to the microphone, my apologies. I see it the way that I see it, just physically. I think that I understand, and I think about that on many cases that come before us. Our point is to draw a line, right? That's where we're supposed to understand where that line is and use our best judgment to hold folks accountable to the ordinance. That's what makes our municipality what it is, right? This is the blueprint to our built environment. So it's not something that any of us take lightly. But I do think that there's been clearly a noble effort in the design of this building to keep it slender and to go vertical. And again, I don't think that any reduction, I don't think you can reduce it in width. I don't, based on just the things that are in there. You have bedroom, circulation, bedroom, and you're not gonna change. I mean, there's not very many things you can do in terms of the width of the buildings. I think maybe you can shave off a foot of each bedroom, and I think, again, after the use of this family in this home, it will quickly become an undergraduate dorm. I think that there's two things you can do to change the size of the home, which would be to change the depth or change the height. I think changing the height won't happen, because that's just not gonna, it's just not in the cards. It would be, you're chopping off 3 bedrooms by doing that. It's more than a mere inconvenience. And then again, changing the depth, I don't know if anybody wins by doing that. You don't see it. It's hidden from the street, more or less. So I certainly understand our need to understand where that line in the sand is drawn, and it's one that I personally take very seriously. But I don't see this as egregious or more than the least relief necessary. I think they have a program, and it's not like what we're hearing before us is, hey, we're a couple of 2, and we just really want a larger house for potential resale someday. That's not the argument. The argument is we have a really large family, and we don't want to hang out with one of our grandkids at a time. We like to hang out with all of them so they can get to know each other. And my parents have many grandchildren, my daughter being one of them, and they constantly are saying the same thing as the Bouchards. Gee whiz, I would like to have all of you together, so when we're not here anymore, you guys have a great relationship. And placemaking is at the core of those things, and I think that's what this is. But that's my opinion.
thank you for your opinion. Appreciate it. Ms. Walsh, you aren't in a position to make a motion, I take it? I'll do it if it has to be done.
I think ultimately, listening to the board members, this is a tough case, but I think ultimately, because there's no line, it's, this is not an objective.
That's why we're here.
And I'm not as interested in, I believe they're going to use it as a family home. I have no problems with that. I'm only concerned that there is an ordinance, and it is over the square footage. The only thing I would recommend, as I think we've done in the past, is to ask the Bouchards to go back and redesign the house to really the least relief necessary. On the other hand, will that make any difference? It's still going to probably be requesting the three categories of waivers. The lot coverage, that's probably going to, might even be more if they redesign. Well, I guess it couldn't because of the first floor.
The board can't approve it unless three of you tonight.
I know. That's why I'm having a real hard time, because I think
I think we have the three. If we had 4 or 5, that'd be great. I think we have the three. Would you like to make the motion? Would you like to? Yes, the hearing's, no, I'm sorry, the hearing's closed. The hearing is closed. We addressed, I don't think we addressed any questions to him after the hearing. I closed the hearing. Okay. Ms. Hicks will help you out. We'll help you out, and I'm sure Ms. Goins will help you out.
Okay, let's give this a try. The following motion I'm going to make to approve the application of, just put it away. You caught me by surprise.
That's all right, take your time.
Bouchard, for their property located at 4 Hahn Avenue in South Kingstown. Both Mr. and Mrs. Bouchard, as well as their attorney, Mr. Paul DeMarco, spoke this evening. The Bouchards and Mr. DeMarco spoke in support of the request, and we also heard from neighbors John, I don't want to mispronounce your name, Charter? Did I pronounce it correctly? Charter? And Robert Warren, who spoke in opposition to the request. And Ms. Spence told us the materials that were entered into the record. And she also had some letters in opposition that were read into the record. So I'm going to propose that the board finds that the hardship from which the applicant seeks relief, is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure and not to the general characteristics of the surrounding area, and is not due to a physical or economic disability of the applicant, excepting those physical disabilities addressed in section 45-24-3016 because of the non-conforming size of the lot. The board finds that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant and does not result primarily from the desire of the applicant to realize greater financial gain because, as the applicants told us, it is to be used as a family residence only. The board finds that the granting of the required variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area or impair the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance or the comprehensive plan upon which the ordinance is based. The board finds that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary because to build a smaller house would not provide the type of home they're looking for their family, and the board finds that the hardship suffered by the owner of the subject property if the dimensional variance is not granted, amounts to more than a mere inconvenience, because the Bouchards have saved for many years to build this property, and they're building it for the enjoyment of themselves and their family. Do I follow up with that?
No, all you need to say is, with that, I approve.
Okay, with that, I move that we approve the application.
Motion made. Ms. Gould?
Yes, and this would be subject to the 2-year expiration if they need any kind of CRMC or OWTS approval. That will be needed as well, right? Or no, no OWTS, is it within the CRMC limits? So then it wouldn't be, so then it will just be the 1-year expiration.
Okay. Motion made. Is there a second?
I'd like to second.
Mr. Diamond, any further discussion by the board members? Go ahead, Ms. Walsh.
Mr. Chairman, I would very much like to approve this, but I am not going to because I think it's important to maintain the ordinance as it stands now. And I think it could be built with less request for relief. But I still wish the Bouchards the best in their plans. As I say, it's your dream house, but maybe not the dream lot. So, but those things happen.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing me to state that.
Thank you, Ms. Walsh. No further discussion? Ms. Hicks?
Aye.
Mr. Diamond?
Aye.
Mr. Daniels, aye. Ms. Walsh?
Nay.
Mr. Rosen?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of additional items on the agenda. One is the approval of the minutes. I thank everyone for their patience on that. Approval of the January 18th, 2023 Zoning Board of Review minutes. Someone want to make that motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, second. All those in favor? Aye. Attendance for the March 22. Anybody not going to be here? Everybody's here. Even you, Ms. Walsh. I'm here till May. All right.
And that's when we should note that it's not the 3rd, it's the 4th Wednesday that month, because the 15th was our normally scheduled one, but the town council needed it that night for budget. So it's the 4th in March. It's the 22nd. Yeah.
The next item I asked to be placed on the agenda for 2 reasons on our rules of procedure. I don't know if any of you are familiar with those rules, but we have them. One needs to be addressed to the agenda, requirements for a quorum. It's out of date and needs to be revised. The second addition to the rules and regulation that I suggested and am going to propose is on recusals, and I think we had some discussion on that. And what I'm proposing is that we establish a rule that on a recusal, a member must leave the room. Simple as that. I think it's suggested by the Ethics Commission. It's not mandated. It's done by a number of other boards and commissions that I'm familiar with. And I think it's a good rule, and I know I have some support from Ms. Walsh. And I think we probably need to advertise that because it is a change in rules and regulations.
There's no requirement that we do a public hearing on rules of procedure. It's not like the subdivision and land development regulations that are substantive. Those by state law have to have a public hearing. We can just review and approve amendments to the rules of procedure as long as it's properly noticed on the agenda. You can take public comment if you want, but there's no need to. You certainly, whether or not we address the bylaws on the quorum, that's state law that governs, and the recusal policy, that's up to the board. So I'll prepare those.
Anybody have any comments on that? Any objections or thoughts or? And the other one is really a administrative, it changes the quorum of the board and makes the rule proper and not out of date, so. Any other thoughts on either one of those? So Amy, you can prepare that maybe for the next meeting, we can, okay. Anything else that we need to talk about?
Mention in regards to the quorum, because that's an ordinance change, is that gonna,
That's one of those like rainy day, yeah, there are a number of provisions of the zoning ordinance that we know are out of date due to state law constantly changing. I'm personally not that concerned about changing the ordinance, but I mean, I guess at some point, rainy day, housekeeping, if we do that though, we're gonna, there's a whole host of, at some point, maybe that's something to add on to the planning board's, work session or workload, just housekeeping amendments. I think for now, let's stick with the amending the rules of procedure. There was a point several years ago when we were constantly sending, not we, but the planning board was constantly sending zoning ordinance amendments to the council. I think if we're gonna scratch the surface on housekeeping amendments to keep up with state law, let's kind of do it as a package. So for now, maybe let's limit it to the bylaws.
Okay, great.
And I wanted to ask, but maybe we should do this after the meeting, a little bit about what you were saying about the upcoming change.
I can do a very, very brief preview on that, just for the, a law was enacted last year that changed the rules statewide on accessory dwelling units. It was not enacted, it was enacted and took effect immediately upon passage sometime June or July 2022. It was very confusingly drafted, and I know there are multiple planners and solicitors in Rhode Island that have different opinions about what it means. Now, we already have an accessory dwelling unit apartment ordinance on the books now. It has not yet been updated. My suggestion at this point, because I know draft legislation either will be or has been filed, I think it's bill filing week, to kind of clean up and tweak what has been enacted. So I will keep you abreast, as I did last year, of whatever ends up being enacted once the dust settles. So I think wait and see on that. We still have the active Land Use Commission and LMI Housing Commission. We'll wait and see what, if any, and just brought to my attention, there was another one that would require notice not only to property owners but to tenants, and broaden the notice area to 1,000 feet. Who knows what's going to happen to that bill? So I'll always keep you apprised in the summer of what laws become enacted. Yeah, unless they establish, and like the garage, that didn't show plans for a dwelling unit. He was almost giving a preview, probably because he knew the question would be asked. But until something shows, until an applicant comes forward with plans to establish a dwelling unit, then Jamie reviews it and determines what, if any, review and approval is required. Some things you can do by right, sometimes they need to come before you for some kind of a special use permit. Yeah.
So South Kingstown, it's not students, it's unrelated individuals, so no more than 3 Correct. That's, yeah. There's no ordinance prohibiting or regulating rental of property. So if it's short-term or long-term, or who it's to, except the number of unrelated is the only ordinance on the books, yeah. Limited to,
And you can get relief from that by special use permit. I'm not sure the board has seen one since you've been on the board. Yeah. So the board saw a handful after that ordinance was adopted in 2018. So you will probably see, and then some of them have come in for renewal.
they're supposed to.
Yeah, oh.
Interestingly, I'd say we haven't seen renewal.
Oh, okay.
They may need a reminder.
Or by a special use permit from this board.
Yeah, I've never seen, and listen, as an architect, I've designed, people call me for all kinds of things. I've definitely designed student housing. I've never once been asked to design student housing with an elevator. I haven't. That's not a dormitory, institutional use, piece of architecture, or not R2. Yeah.